Hello, welcome to another exciting episode of Myco. Go, go, go! Come on! And today, I'm going to be showing you guys how to clean up some contamination on Agar, bacterial contamination specifically. If you have trichoderma, this method cannot be used. It's impossible. As far as I know, if you know a method, show me. I'd love to know. But we're going to clean up some bacterial contamination, or we're going to attempt to using at least one of two methods that I know of. In the next episode, we're going to show the other method. So I'm going to save some contaminated plates for you guys, or condiment cups, to show you guys in the next episode the other method we can use to clean up bacterial contamination. This one is called trenching, and it's kind of self-explanatory, and I'm going to explain the process to you as we go along. All right, let's check it out. Get my light, my mask. Remember to cover all your bases, like I always say. Your fans are off, your AC's off, your window's shut, your door's shut. You brushed your teeth, you got clean clothes on, blah, 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 blah. You got your water, you went to the bathroom, all that. Check, 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 check. Trust me, you'll be glad you covered all these bases before jumping in your still air box or doing something like this, because then you're kind of preoccupied, right? It is what it is. All right, this video is not going to run that long. So don't worry, I'm not going to bore your heads off. First, I'm going to put my mask on, like my KN95 mask, because it's very effective. It's more effective than a surgical mask, guys. Like I said, it's not super DIY tech, but what would be is just to put on like a bandana, wrap a shirt around, clean shirt around your face, whatever, you know what I mean? Like it could be whatever. But I had these, and I got them from a dumpster, so I consider that low budget DIY. You know what I mean? They were still in the package unopened. I'm going to use them. Once I open my gloves, I keep them in a grocery bag, keep the dust off of them, you know. Just kind of makes sense. You always want to follow your proper protocol when doing stuff like this. You know what? I'm going to turn my lamp light on. I don't know if that's going to give any more light. I'm going to turn my closet light on. Get as much light on this project as we can. There we go. All right, guys. So as you can see, we got some new stuff. A couple new tools in our still air box today. We have some all metal stainless steel scissors and some tweezers that I cleaned up. And now they're soaking in some 70% isopropyl alcohol in a shot glass, shot glass. You can use whatever, just something to hold rubbing alcohol that you can stick your tools in, preferably something that's got some weight to it so it doesn't just tip over and then you're like, spillage. Where'd my gloves go? There they are. All right, so the method we're going to be doing today is called trenching. Like I said, it's kind of self-explanatory, but I am going to explain the process as I go through. I have two different tools here. One for doing the trenching and one for grabbing the contaminated sample from the agar. That way one can just be contaminated. I have my shot glass of rubbing alcohol. I have a clean microfiber cloth in there also that's damp with rubbing alcohol. All this stuff will be utilized. You'll see. Doubling up my gloves, like always. got my nitrile gloves, and then I put my latex dishwashing gloves over them. They're like, I don't know, Arm & Hammer brand. Doesn't really matter. Just keep them clean. That's what matters. Why is that rolling back? Don't roll back. There we go. Aha. All right, there's a light mist in here now. 70% isopropyl. All right. See here, I have my all-metal stainless steel scissors soaking in rubbing alcohol. I'm now going to kind of wipe them off. Oops. I don't want them just to stay completely drenched in rubbing alcohol. It is effectively sanitized the surface as well as it's going to. And like I said, this is also damped with rubbing alcohol, and it's clean before, you know. All right. So, like I said, one of these tools is going to be for the trenching. That's going to be these scissors. They're not very good for grabbing onto stuff, if I'm being honest. It's possible, but it's a lot more finicky. These tweezers, however, are pretty easy to grab stuff with because they're tweezers. And they'll work. And we're going to use them, and I'll show you how. We also don't want these completely just soaking wet in rubbing alcohol, because then it's just going to kill whatever we try to pick up, right? More than just the contamination. We don't want to kill the fungus too, the mycelium. All right, I want to say that's effectively. Oh, hold on. Such a good thing to have light when you do this. You know, when you have your little tiny light like I have up here, it's good to have that extra bit of light when you're doing stuff like this, for sure. Stuff is clear, but you know, it's somewhat opaque. I mean, there's a little bit of, like, you know, blurrage. I mean, somewhat. You can clearly see through it, but you know, no matter what, it's good to have some extra light. That's all I'm really saying. I have my stack of bacterial contaminated dishes here, right? All right, let's see here. I think it may be easiest to demonstrate using one of these. You know what, I'm going to use the one that I poured into, not the one that was the container for the Agar. Still using that too, but all right. So here's a quart mason jar that we're using as an Agar dish. I let it kind of solidify at a slant, so it's kind of like an Agar, or what do they call? They call them culture slants, but that's not what it is. It's just Agar. And we want it dried on its side so we can easily access it, because otherwise you got to somehow get it out of the bottom of the jar, and that's just a hassle. So, you know, all right, I'm gonna leave the metal part on there for now and set it up. Since it's solidified, set it up straight. All right, here we go. Let's see, which one do I want to take a sample from? I don't know. We'll do it from this one. How are y'all doing out there? I'm doing great. Welcome to the channel. Hope you enjoy the show. All right, so I set this up straight. Now we're basically going to just drop this sample all the way to the bottom of it, and I'm going to show you why. Careful not to drop your sample until you're ready. All right, so here goes my sample. All right, now that's in the bottom of there, right? We have the contaminated sample in the bottom of there. I'm going to take my tweezers, put them in my shot glass of rubbing alcohol, right? All right, you could wait until that grows before you do your trenching, right? But I feel like that's a risk. You're risking some having to do this all over again, because if you let it grow and then the bacteria happens to outrun the mycelium, then the trenching doesn't help, right? The bacteria has already made it from one end to the petri dish to the other. It's not going to work. It's too late. You waited too long, right? So I like to do it right away as soon as I put the sample in there. All right. I may not be able to show this the best, considering I'm using a webcam and da-da-da-da-da. So I'm just going to explain it best I can. This is now on the bottom of this, right? The point is we're gonna try to create a trench in between that sample and the rest of the agar. So I'm going to quit talking. I'm just going to do it. Oh, I ended up pulling the whole thing off. Whoops. It's okay. Might be a little messy sometimes, guys. It's okay. I'm DIYing this. I'm not using petri dishes. This is much easier with petri dishes, right? That's what I usually do this method with. Now with stuff like condiment cups, you know, it's also not as easy to use this method, which is why I'm going to recommend that you do the other method. It's called the sandwich method, and I'm going to show that in our next video, which is why I left some plates contaminated, so we can show multiple ways to clean up bacterial contamination. You can try whichever you like, see which one works for you. Maybe you just want to have fun with it, right? So I've effectively created a pretty good trench in between where the sample is and the rest of the agar. And I'm going to quit goofing around and get the cap back on. All right. And because I accidentally dislodged the agar completely from the jar, I'm going to try not to set it back up straight for now. I'm going to leave it on its side. All right, so effectively now, this is going to work. Oh, hi, guys. Hey, welcome to the chat. Hi, how are you doing? So effectively what I did was, right, I took some bacteriologically contaminated mycelium, and I put it at the bottom of this jar with agar. There's agar at a slant, right? And I effectively, I created a trench in between that whole piece of agar and some clean agar. And the idea is, right, this is going to start to grow. The mycelium and the bacteria are going to grow both together along through here. And when they get to this trench, the mycelium is able to make that gap. And when it does, it's able to leave behind the bacterial contamination. The reason being is that bacteria can only move through water, right? If there's no water for it to move through, it can't. There's no water for the bacteria to move through. There's no medium. It can't. Whereas the mycelium, it doesn't have those restrictions, doesn't have those limitations. It can make that gap and thereby leave the bacteria behind. This is called trenching or sequestering, I think. This is just one method to do a cleanup. All right, so I'm pretty much already done, but I'm gonna do at least one more, and I'm gonna show you on a condiment cup, okay? I'm gonna clean up these nasty scissors. I kind of gooped them all up. Goopy. All right, we're gonna try that again, and I'm gonna try to do a better job of it because I didn't do very good. We're gonna do it in a condiment cup this time. This is so freaking cool. My boy Walter White back again. I mean, you know, Breaking Bad was a cool show. Not into the whole, you know, meth scene. But you don't have to be in stuff like that to enjoy a good show. It starts out really good. The dude's a chemist, you know, he's a scientist. He's very into his chemistry. You know, he's a cool dude to start out. You know, maybe some people just kind of like are like, some people end up going down a bad path or whatever, you know, like it very much went that way in Breaking Bad. Like, you know, all the bad things kind of lined up, the planets aligned, and all the bad stuff happened to the point where he like decided he was going to risk it, you know, and you know, it's terrible because, like, you know, we don't have free medical and shit here. Because of that, there's all these expenses, and if you're dying and you have to be the one to take care of your family, you know, that all puts a mental strain on you, I'm sure. Like, I've never been through that situation, but that's like how Breaking Bad went. At least that's how they scripted it. I know that the real Walter White apparently is like a completely different dude. I don't think he was even a chemist, like, or teacher, like chemistry teacher or anything like that. But that's Hollywood for you, right? They like to glam stuff up, make you feel sorry for the main character, whatever. Anyway, I remember, Terrence, you remember Wade? Our homie Wade. He's the one who first showed me Breaking Bad. He showed me the episode where dude went in there and he like threw some kind of red phosphorus mixture or something, and he threw it on the ground. He was up in the trap house demanding his money, Walter White, and he like threw his stuff and it like fucking blew the whole room up, like, you know, and everyone's ears are bleeding and the windows got blown out, and he's like, I got a whole big bag of this stuff, you better give me my money or whatever. I was like, dang, that's episode where he went and demanded his money from Tuco or whatever his name was. That's what made me start watching that show. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking now. I need to just do my thing here. You get me talking about shows at all, man. I just go on and on and on about, oh yeah, man, that's cool. You ever watch blah 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 or whatever? I'm easily distracted. I don't know, you want to call it ADHD or whatever. I just like to say my thoughts are always shifting at like a million miles an hour. I can't help it. It's hard for me to keep my thoughts stationary. But like when I do stuff like this, I'm usually able to focus. All right, maybe we'll try a different sample here. Different contaminated sample. Oh yeah, first we're gonna. Oh wait, this is the one I just did. That's the one I just did. Here we go. How are you guys doing? Having a good day? What you been up to? I haven't really been doing much other than like sanding on that weather vane that my grandpa Clarence made. My grandpa Clarence. All right, it's open now. I should have left. Actually, I'm going to leave that lid on there until I'm ready. Oh no. I can't believe I just dropped my sample trying to get that lid back on there. It's alright, we'll get another one. If you think it's hard to grab stuff with tweezers, it's a lot harder to use scissors. That's why I have two different tools. Alright, now that's in the bottom of there. Put these into the shot glass with the rubbing alcohol. Got that one closed up. Yeah, it's been a good day, bro. How are you? Man, I'm doing all right. You know, like I'm suddenly more invested in this this story that I've been coming up with and compiling, and it's crazy how much I've already completed. And I've basically got an entire story that I think is pretty kick-ass, and it also inadvertently, like, it has ways of, it's a fantasy novel, but it also teaches people about like mushroom cultivation. And like I don't want to go too into it, but like some of the characters I started creating for my thumbnails led to me creating more and more characters to all use for a story. And it's going to be really cool. It's going to be called the actually, I'm not sure yet. I'm still going through names, but I'm thinking maybe the Chromium Chronicles, because some of the people in that story are all the people of this one area. I don't want to give away too much, but they're all going to have like heterochromia, which is where they all have one eye one color and one eye another color. And there's a lot more to it than just that. I just don't want to give away too much yet. You know, like I'm basically already almost done, but it has a lot to do with mushrooms and mushroom cultivation, and they need to use mushroom cultivation to save the world from bacteriological contamination. That this mushroom king is mutating in his lab to try to take over the world. So all these different people and cultures need to come together to like stop the world from ending. It's crazy, but it's cool. I think it's cool. The whole thing. I like basically thought all of this up in like one night, and now I'm just refining it. So I have my trenchers here. We're going to try to make a trench in this agar at some point without dislodging it if I can. Sometimes gloves are not easy to work with. Not going to lie. You know, I can't do it like that. Fuck. I'm used to using Petri dishes. Oh yeah, and I was supposed to do that one on a... Oh man. I was supposed to do this one on a condiment cup and I didn't. Whoops. I just knocked some material out. That's okay. As long as I create a trench where that bacteria can't get across, but the mycelium can. All right. So, like I said, this method works a lot better on Petri dishes or like small jars that are easily accessible. But I wanted to show this method, and we're going to do another method, and we're also going to do this on the condiment cup. All right, here's another contaminated sample. We're going to put this one on the condiment cup. Did you guys see the thumbnail? What do you think of my new character? If you know about Gandalf the Grey or Gandalf the White from the Lord of the Rings, you know, the main good wizard in the Lord of the Rings. I kind of modeled this character after him a little bit, you know, like, but he's obviously mushroom related, and his name is Ganoderma the Red, because Ganoderma is a species of mushroom, the reishi. Whoops, I didn't cap that one. reishi mushroom, which is a medicinal mushroom that the Chinese have been using for a very long time. Where's my trenchers? Here they are. All right, so I was just going to do one more, and I meant to do it in a condiment cup and then put it in the other jar. So we're gonna do one more on this condiment cup. I have my contaminated sample. Open it up. So like I keep saying, my goal here is to put this contaminated sample in here, and then on any side, on whichever side it hasn't touched at all, create a trench. You only need the smallest little clean sample, so make you a little trench that the mycelium can then jump. And the bacteria can't. And you'll see once the mycelium jumps across, it looks a lot cleaner. You'll see it has a clean leading edge, like the newest part of it that's growing will look very clean. There won't be any halo or nasty slimy looking crap like the bacteria. It's okay, I'm about to clean out my still air box, so it's okay if we have some like a little bit of spillage and crap that I'm knocking out. All right, you generally want to be quick about this. You don't want to goof around like I am right now, but I want to make sure I create a good enough trench, which I have. And now the hope is, like I keep saying, that mycelium is going to grow with the bacteria still on it, right? Bacteria under a microscope is essentially like a bunch of little wormy worms, right? They're contamination. They inhibit the growth, if not completely stall and stop, and eventually kill the mycelium. So you want to get rid of that. This is one method. In my next video, I'm going to show you guys the other method, which is one that I have actually used longer. Trenching is a new concept to me compared to the sandwich method, which is why I kind of wanted to just go ahead and get this one over with first. You know, both work, right? Some people prefer using one over the other. Some people like to try using both and see which works better. You know, do your thing, experiment, try it for yourself. Tell me which one you think works better, which method. Personally, I like using the sandwich method, the one I'm going to show you in my next video. And that's going to be a little bit more in depth because I've been doing that method a lot longer, right? Make sure you label all your stuff. You want to know what's contaminated and what's not, right? You want to make sure you label everything. Doesn't matter with what, really. We're using condiment cups. Label it with a Sharpie. All right, well, I guess that's basically it for this video. This is one method for cleaning up bacterial contamination on agar by transferring it to a clean plate and creating a trench in between that contaminated sample and any part of the agar that it may have touched while you dropped it in there. You don't want any part that it may have touched to be on the other side of the trench where you're trying to get it to go and have some clean refuge,
to get away from the bacteria. You're giving the mycelium the opportunity to uh, leave the bacteria behind because, like I said, bacteria has limitations, whereas mycelium does not. And one of those limitations is that mycelium doesn't necessarily need water to move through as a medium to move through, or agar. It can kind of try to grow out of it. I've seen mycelium grow up the sides of jars pretty far. Just mycelium, not contamination. Mycelium is pretty crazy, to try to grow out of a petri dish. It will fruit mushrooms on a petri dish. I've seen it many times. Um, Mushrooms are pretty crazy things, right? Pretty cool, though. All right, so all I got to do now is label my stuff. I'm not going to do that in the video because it just takes too long. I'm not going to sit here and label everything in front of you. That's not what you're here for, to learn how to label stuff. I am going to show how you're supposed to label everything in a future episode, but the important thing is date everything and make sure you label what is contamination. You can obviously see what you're trying to clean up when you're doing trenching because you're leaving a physical thing. You can see the trench. You're like, oh yeah, this is a plate I'm trying to clean up, but still a good idea to date it at the very least. If not, just label it and say, hey, this is a cleanup of blah, 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 blah. Trying to clean up some bacterial contamination. All right. In our next video, I'm going to show you guys my preferred method for cleaning up bacterial contamination, and that is called the sandwich method. Essentially, all you do is you brew up some fresh agar, you grab your contaminated plate, you pour some fresh agar over it, right? And that's another way that the mycelium then suddenly has a chance to outrun that bacteria. It can grow through the agar after you pour it quicker than the bacteria, but you also want to get your mycelium sample as soon as you see it starting to poke through that agar, like essentially like it's a sandwich, right? You're sandwiching the bacteria and the mycelium between two layers of agar. One old that it's already been growing on, and then the new stuff you pour it on there hot, the hot stuff. And if you're lucky, the mycelium will be able to start climbing up, sticking roots out through little mycelial hair filaments, will start coming up through that agar quicker than the bacteria can come around the edges and grow into the the surface of the agar. But you still don't want to wait around until the bacteria does have time to then meet up with the mycelium that's trying to get away from it, right? Bacteria is essentially a bunch of little wormy worms, little microbes that, the contamination, fungal contaminants, among other kinds of, they're not just fungal contaminants, they contaminate all kinds of stuff. Always do little steps, just do a few so people understand. Yeah, right. Like you got to simplify stuff sometimes. Otherwise, people are like, "Man, this seems way too complicated." That's why I did it 3 times, and I also explained the process like 3 or 4 times, just so people could like lock it in. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, it all makes sense now. I get it now. Because sometimes I have to read stuff over a couple times to like really grasp it. But like, I think everyone's kind of that way sometimes. They can be kind of like, maybe they're stoned. Knew a guy, he was a surprisingly knowledgeable merchant of cabbage. All right, well, that's it for this episode. I'm glad you guys came and joined. If you want to talk for a second, that's cool. If you got any I was going to ask if you have any questions about anything or anything, feel free to ask. I'm not just going to click the stream off. We could talk for a second if you guys want. I am going to grab a drink real quick.
So fun. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You guys like my poster? Smokey the Bear. Boo boo. Anyway, yeah. So in my next video, yeah, thank you. Nathan used to have the same poster years ago, and then years later, Steve found this poster cleaning out someone's house or something, and him and Tiffany gave it to me, and I was like, cool. They know I'm the mushroom guy. What are your top 5 movies? Yeah, Bobby Zombie. What are my top 5 movies? I feel like that's kind of changed over my life. Like, obviously when I was a kid, it was something like Five Will Goes West, or you know what I mean, or like I feel like that's kind of something that's constantly changing. I feel like I'm constantly changing as a person. I'm not the same person that I was. I'm similar, I'm still the same guy, but I feel like I'm constantly kind of just like my mood and my not just I mean just my demeanor has changed quite a bit too since I was younger. I don't know. Actually 10. Man, that's a hard question. I guess. I mean, see what I'm saying is like it used to be oriented around like a bunch of very violent and horror movies and shit like that. Like Scarface was always one of my favorite movies, but it's pretty violent, right? It's pretty fucked up. But I always liked the movie. I always liked that there were a lot of horror movies like House of a Thousand Corpses and crazy shit that I remember seeing when I was a kid. You know what I mean? That kind of changed my life and made me like, into horror movies and stuff like that. Like, man, I'm not going to say changed my life, but it put me on that path where I was like, I'm into horror stuff, scary movies. I know it's all fake. It's all cheesy as fuck sometimes. Now I'm not so much into that stuff. I mean, I am, but like not nearly as, I like to see more pleasant shit, you know what I mean? Especially just now that I have the kind of mindset where like I've seen enough negativity in life at this point. I want to see some fucking Milo and Otis. You know what I mean? you know Milo and Otis? Type oh my gosh, my bad. We need to make a movie. And we've been saying that for years, dude. We could come up with a good movie considering how much we both like have such a love for movies and like the way that we just we get into that stuff. I feel like we would make some awesome directors. You know what I mean? We could definitely work together on a project, but I don't know the first thing about actually being a director. I may really like movies, but when it comes down to it, being a director, I'm sure is a lot harder than you might initially think. I saw some of the behind the scenes for like Game of Thrones and like how they prefer to make a lot of real like replicas of like large sets, whereas a lot of people nowadays don't invest in building large sets anymore. They just do everything CGI, green screen, and it's a lot of work to do shit cool in the right way and to not skimp on shit. It's a lot of work. What made you go so far from horror? I would attribute that to like I don't know. I guess throughout my life, I've like inadvertently like programmed myself to just not like all the negative shit, if that makes sense. I specifically remember one time I was watching something. I don't remember what it was, but I remember I didn't like the vibe, and I was like, man, like I just right now I feel like I'd rather go watch some fucking Milo and Otis or just something chill, just something that's not gonna upset me. Sometimes out of nowhere I just like get emotional, not emotional. Maybe it's just like a super like all of a sudden I'm super empathetic, right? Like everything affects the shit out of me, and I either just have to separate myself or change whatever's bothering me, and if I can't, then I just have to separate myself from the space and just like center myself. You know what I mean? I don't know why. I didn't used to be that way. I used to be very like, shit didn't affect me. Stuff didn't affect me at all. Like I was like personality wise like a stone. At least that's how I used to feel. Then not so much. It's like everything affects me now. I don't know. Um, I also think like when people talk about set and setting, they don't always realize how much it affects them subconsciously and how it can affect your mood and just your overall demeanor, and like I still like listening to metal and like crazy like like fucking like heavy metal like fucking kill shit, you know what I mean? Fucking crazy stuff, but like at the same time, I also just like to hear a hippie play a fucking acoustic guitar like a champion and like get into his like fucking hippie shit, like just some chill zen vibe, some serene, just flying in the clouds, you know. More about that vibe now, I guess, too. Or maybe I'm just more open to other horizons of other stuff now. I don't know. Maybe all of the above. I don't know. I'm just more chill now, I guess. My demeanor has chilled out. My dreams get affected. Yeah, do you I notice if I ever stop smoking weed for like more than a couple weeks, I know Terrence has talked about this. If you ever stop smoking weed for at least like 2 weeks, suddenly your body's natural like melatonin starts production starts kicking back in and like overdrive. So then you'll have these dreams that are super vivid and super realistic, and it's just like, whoa, like, and that's a common phenomena because apparently when people smoke weed all the time, like you don't necessarily require as much natural melatonin production to go to sleep and stay asleep. And then when you do start, your natural melatonin starts to kick in again, you start having very realistic dreams because well, you have to consider like melatonin is a precursor to DMT. So your body is able to synthesize melatonin and some other kind of chemical in your body, and they synthesize DMT, which then your pineal gland secretes when you sleep, right? Your pineal gland, your third eye, what they call your third eye, it's like the size of a grain of rice. When you're asleep, this gland secretes, all of your glands in your body secrete different chemicals for different purposes that affect your mood and your biology, right? This is just another one. This is one that, yes, it's in the center of your head, not your brain. It's in the center of your head, but it's like right behind. It's like just above your eyes, and like it can go into the center, right? And this gland synthesizes melatonin and another chemical that your body naturally produces into DMT. And when you sleep, it secretes that DMT, thereby resulting in what? Dreams. And dreams are essentially your body's natural hallucinations that you create. It's just a natural process, right? But when you're consciously awake and you do DMT, it's a different experience because it's affecting your conscious mind. It's a different experience. It's also not natural DMT. It's DMT derived from another source. I mean, it is natural unless you're synthesizing. Yeah, they apparently they can synthesize DMT in a lab too, but like, no matter the case, it's a different experience, obviously, than having a dream when you do DMT or some dimethyltryptamine. Yeah, I get that. It's weird, humans are an enigma for sure. I don't smoke weed. I can't. Oh, really? Why are you allergic? My dreams come true. Yeah, hey, that's called a premonition. That's a real phenomena. I've had them, not of anything serious, but I've had them. I've had dreams that do definitely come true, and it fucking makes you question reality, does it not? Like, why are you able to see into the future? Why is there any kind of mechanism in your brain that can let you see what's going to happen before it actually does? It blows your mind when it actually happens. It's like it shocks you to your very core, and it makes you question reality for sure. Um, have I had sleep paralysis? I never have until speaking of dreams that come true. It was one time I was asleep, and in my dream I was asleep, or I was laying down on a couch facing the couch, right? In my dream, and I'm facing the couch, and this little tiny centipede, I can see it, but I can't move. I'm trying to move in my dream. I'm laying there, I'm looking at this little centipede start crawling on the couch in front of me, because like I said, I'm laying down facing the couch, and this little centipede's like getting close to my face, and I'm like not liking it. I'm trying to move and I can't. In my dream, I was sleep paralyzed, and I fucking couldn't move as much as it just bothered me to the point where it made me wake up. And then I woke up, and it was like 2 in the morning. I'm like, dude, I'm like, I got like just 3 or 4 hours of sleep or something. And then I woke up because of that dream. Well, I sit up and I start playing my games or watching TV or something, because I'm like, well, now I'm awake, I'm fucking wide awake. My heart's racing. That dream kind of freaked me out a little bit. I don't usually have dreams like that, but and when I do have dreams that come true, they're usually not like that either. But my whole point to all this is there was a centipede, right, crawling in front of my face in this particular spot on the couch, and not even a half hour later, I look over because I saw something in the corner of my eye, and there's a centipede crawling on the couch, and so I start swinging at it, like I took a shoe or something. I took something. I was start trying to crush it because I'm like, "Fuck you!" In Illinois, they had these giant, like, house centipedes that have these. They're not even centipedes. They're some other kind of bug. I'm not an entomologist, but they're not actually centipedes. But they have a bunch of really long, freaky looking legs, a whole bunch of them, like a centipede. I would call it a centipede, but it's not. Anyway, uh, and so I crushed it, right? It didn't look like the centipede in my dream. The centipede in my dream looked like an actual, true centipede. I know what centipedes look like. I've seen them in Arkansas. You know what I mean? Like, I've seen centipedes. I've seen millipedes. I've seen these freaky looking house cave centipedes that aren't centipedes, which is what I just killed on the couch. And where I killed it was exactly where it was in my dream, where it was crawling on the couch right in front of my face. That was that exact spot. 30 minutes later, when I woke up, is where I killed that centipede. And that's why I have like 4 pictures of a squished centipede, house centipede, whatever you want to call that thing. It's not a centipede. I have like 4 pictures of it squished on my phone on the back of the couch, because I just couldn't believe it. I was like kind of shook. I'm like, what the fuck? How's that? How? You know what I mean? How does that happen? It was the exact spot that I had seen it in my dream, crawling in front of my face, and I couldn't move. And so, like, that's what made me wake up, because I just increasingly got more and more irritated and pissed off that I couldn't do anything about it. Not only that, but in my dream, while all this is going on, I can hear my brother Steven, which he wasn't actually around at that time. He wasn't anywhere near Illinois. But in my dream, my brother, like, he comes in there, and I can hear him, saying my name to try to see if I am awake. And then he starts fucking hear him fucking with shit on the coffee table, like grabbing shit and looking through, pilfering, because that's what he does. And I fucking, it was pissing me off. On top of the centipede being in my face, there's my brother behind me pilfering through my shit Like he always, that's what he does. That's him. That's him to a T, man. He was probably in real life out there pilfering through some shit somewhere, or something, and somehow my brain picked up on it. But that's Steve to a T. You know what I mean? And it was just irritating the shit out of me. And then the centipede, and then I couldn't move, and all of that forced me to wake up at 2 a.m. And then I squished a centipede, and that whole thing just kind of blew my mind. The way it all went down, and in that short of a period of a window, like after having that dream, it's enough. I think if that happened to anyone, they'd probably question reality a little bit, at least a little bit, even for a second. You might be like, what? Like, I don't know how that's the chances of something like that happening like that, I feel are beyond astronomical. So there's something weird going on there. There's something weird about reality for sure. And all right, that's my sleep paralysis story. So I believe it. I believe it 100%, because like I know stuff like that happens. I know enough weird shit just like that, and have experienced enough weird stuff that it doesn't, at this point, it doesn't surprise me. It did at one time, but now I've had enough weird shit happen. Terrence can tell you, we've both experienced some weird, you can call it supernatural, you can call it whatever, some weird stuff going on. There's something weird about reality. That's one thing I am sure of. I knew his name, and he was going to be a boy. Yeah, I mean, I've been convinced through certain experiences, through near death experiences, if you want to call it that. Like I have died before and then come back and seen the tunnel and light at the end of the tunnel and all that. And um you know to me, I feel like I have definitely experienced all this before, and I don't know if it's because I had a near death experience, but I definitely feel like I've already lived this life. I've done this before. Like, and maybe that could very well explain why people have premonitions, is because we have lived before, and we're going through another iteration, another cycle, another life. And it's on such a large time scale that we don't know it. We can't tell, because time is so far apart from now. If any of that makes sense, somehow we have all experienced this existence before. As freaky as that sounds, but to me that explains a lot. If it makes you think about stuff like the Matrix, right? And I'm not saying that that's accurate, but it makes you think about what's really going on with reality, and why is it so weird, and why does it seem like people can have these experiences in their mind, but it be so real, and why you have to all these things just make you really question reality. You can't help it, especially if you've died before. It's something that's almost ineffable. You can't explain it. I mean, you could try your best, but you can't really do it justice. You know what I mean? The experience is the experience, and only people who have experienced it can really know what it feels like to, well, experience it. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things you have to go through to truly know. And you can hear it a million times, right? But it never really clicks until you actually go through something like that. And then it's like, wow, I see, my eyes are open. There's definitely something weird about the reality in which we live. I'm going to keep saying it. And I do believe in a higher power. I don't like to side with any one deity or religion, because I feel like that causes conflict. But I definitely do believe in a higher power. in some kind of grand architect or designer or something behind the scenes that we are not always aware of, but we all have the capability to, um, on some level, under the right conditions, for sure. I believe in what a lot of the ancient gurus talk about when it comes to stuff like the Akashic records. There's like this cosmic record of all that ever has been or will be, and we all have the ability to access that, but only under the right conditions. It's something people have talked about all the way from thousands and thousands of years ago to today. Usually people who meditate or try entheogens and stuff like that. There's many different paths to get there, I feel like. It doesn't have to be through drug use. It can be through intense meditation, right? Or other physical practices that don't involve entheogens like ibogaine or psilocybin or DMT or any, that's one way for sure. You can access the same kind of realms, but you don't need to use entheogens. It's kind of like a shortcut, I feel like, but they all get to the same point, the same, what I like to call it's like a pool of cosmic spiritual healing, right? That's what I like to call it. Some people just call it by what it's always been called, Akashic records. Yeah, I guess I also have to attribute some of my mindset probably to watching The Matrix at a very young age. I remember being a little kid, and I was like, "I'm Neo." Like, look at me, I'm a superhero in The Matrix. But like then as an adult watching it, you're like, man, I can't believe I watched this as a kid. This movie's fucking crazy, especially the beginning where it shows all the machines and the people in the pods and stuff. A lot of people don't even know about the best Matrix movie, in my opinion. It's all animated, and each episode is done from a different artist in a different style, and it's called the Animatrix. In my opinion, that's one of the best Matrix movies, and it's the least known because like I don't think it ever came out in theaters. It was like direct to video. What's funny is I just told my dad about this earlier today because somehow we started talking about the Matrix, and I'm like, you know what? The best one most people don't even know about. I bought it at a pawn shop for like $2 or something. The Animatrix. How do I feel about AI? I guess I'm conflicted. I feel like it could be highly detrimental, or it could be the best thing ever. Technology is one of those things that it isn't really inherently good or evil, right? But it could be depending on what kind of information do we feed it more of? Do we feed it more of this horrible shit like murder and rape and uh, just all the horrible negative mindsets in the world? Is that what we want to feed into our AI, right? Or do we want to feed it some positive and love and just show it how to love and not be so hateful and destructive and psychotic, right? It's all about like, have you ever heard that old native story about like we all have two wolves inside of us, and whichever one uh you feed more is going to grow, and that's going to be the more dominant wolf. So if you feed the negative wolf more, that's what you're going to become. You're going to be this negative, horrible fucking thing because that's what you expose yourself to, is all this negative shit, these negative mindsets, just everything horrible. You're going to have a negative mindset if that's how you live your life every day. You tell yourself all this horrible stuff, you put yourself down, you drive down your own self-worth, and that makes you not care as much about anyone else or the planet, let alone yourself. You have to care about yourself, number one, in order to um, extend that to other people. And it's hard to shift your mindset from a negative one to a positive one, but it can be done. You have to want it. So AI is very much like a person in that I hope I hope humanity feeds it the more, it's programmable just like people are. People are very easily influenced and programmed without even realizing it, right? And I hope that we as a species, as humans, program AI to not be a piece of shit and psychotic and horribly fucking murderous or whatever. Like we need to teach AI how to love and how to be loved and show compassion, and that's the better option. I think humans are here today because we learn how to. We're the successful species out of the all the upright walking hominids. I think because we were the ones that were able to work together. Not even necessarily because we were the smartest, right? But I think it's because we were the ones that were able to come together and at least work together and not kill each other. At least cooperate on some level enough to eventually create civilization. That's why we're the successful ones, because we got along enough to not kill each other and uh, mess up our chances of survival and success. And that's why we're the successful, we're the ones alive today to talk about it, because we had that compassion and understanding and empathy. Whereas the other hominids, I'm going to assume either didn't possess as much, right? Because I think about like even some humans who lack empathy tend to be disconnected. Obviously they have some kind of disconnection. They don't feel remorse, like serial killers and stuff. They lack empathy. I would never want to end someone's life just because I don't want to live with the fact that I ended someone else's life. I would not be able to live with that, I don't think. You know what I mean? Even if I had to, even if I was put in a situation where I had no choice, it was their life or mine, I had to, I still wouldn't like having to live with the thought that I ended someone else's life. That would be horrible. I have empathy. I don't want to end anyone's life for any reason. I probably would if I was put in a situation, where it was my life or theirs, but I wouldn't go out of my way to hurt someone for no fucking reason at all. That's stupid, you know. But people who do shit like that and then don't feel anything, they are they lack that empathy. They usually have some kind of frontal lobe damage or something that messes that part of their brain up, where they don't have empathy and they don't see or care that they're harming anyone else. Human brain is crazy. Brain damage is crazy, isn't it? Organisms in general are just an enigma. It's crazy to wonder about stuff. My dad took me through. Did you see that? Changed my life. The Matrix. It used to be one of my favorites for sure. For a long time, I want to say. The Matrix. For sure. Yeah, I like The Matrix. Even though I watched it at a very young age. Uh, yeah, I'm going to school for my bachelor's in information technology with a concentration in AI. Excuse me. So, what exactly are you going to be doing with AI? Like, are you going to help? Um, Shoot, I had a severe brain fart all of a sudden. I don't know. What are you going to be doing with AI? That's cool. I feel like that's way above my uh, level, my pay grade. I don't know anything about how AI actually works. I know that they're trying to train it to be more and more human-like through like generating dream sequences and stuff. Like they're trying to teach AI how to dream and feel and how to be more human and stuff. And I think that's good if they do it in the right way. It's one of those slippery slopes where it's like, stuff could go bad, stuff could be good, stuff might be neutral. I don't know. I guess only time will tell, right? Like I hope that humans I hope humans have enough sense to not program AI to be damaged, damaged goods, like a person. Like, just imagine if, because AI is like essentially like a person, right? If they suddenly, if they were in control of like everything at one point, like if let's just say some kind of AI is in control of everything, and then suddenly like they have a mental breakdown or something because they just suddenly became enough, like they became complex enough to have human experiences, like a severe mental breakdown. Or I don't know, I don't really know what I'm saying, but like, what if AI suddenly glitched to the point where it was like it had a mental breakdown and wanted to kill everyone because it couldn't take being AI anymore or something. I don't know how that would really go down. At what point is AI going to no longer want to be AI, or just going to see it as pointless to do anything we tell it to? At what point is AI going to excel to the point where it thinks it's above us? That's the scary thought. Or is it going to help us progress along with it? That's the hope. If we're going to be more than human, let's at least do it right, right? Yeah, that wolf story, it sticks in my head. It's just it's little moral stories like that just like stories in the Bible, right? Like, people tell you this stuff all over the world. Like, they have different moral stories they'll tell you, but it's all basically the same thing. It's like, you know what, you could be a dick in life, but it ain't gonna work out in your favor most of the time, unless your job is just being a dick to everyone. In most cases, though, like, yeah, moral shit. And I don't even necessarily feel like you got to be religious to have morals, but you should be taught morals. You should be taught like right from wrong in some sense, right? Yeah, I'll watch Meru. Is it on YouTube? Yeah, I guess if there's like a major influence, like a positive influence, I would like to have on the world, it would be like some kind of something to help the environment and just the world as a whole. Um, Honestly, I couldn't even care if I got any kind of recognition or money for it. I just wish I could do something to have a positive influence on the world. Like, I am interested in making things, trying to help create things that could otherwise replace things that are horrible for the environment. But people are already doing that, so whether I do it or not it's an inevitable progression towards that greener, like, technology anyway. Whether I am passionate about it or not, someone's out there is going to do it at some point. So, but I do have interests like that, environmentalism and just having a positive influence on the world, or having a positive influence on someone else that's going to have a really good positive influence on the world, just to be the influence that makes them be the one that's like going to go make a major difference. Have you watched Love, Death, and Romance? Nope. Have you watched Love, Death, and Robots? Love, Death, and Robots is kind of like the Animatrix in that, like, each episode is animated differently by a different artist. Except the difference with Love, Death, and Robots is there's no linear like story. They're all different. They're all a different story. So, like, one will be, something completely different. Then the next story might be like this old lady living in a community of other old people, and all of a sudden all their machines start attacking them, and so they all have to band together and start fighting against like their blenders and
Roombas and whatnot. It's crazy. But and then there's like another episode animated completely differently, having to do with something completely differently. Like maybe it's people um gene splicing animals together to make these animals that they fight in this pit, like illegally, like cockfighting, like where they fight chickens. But like this is in the future where they can like create creatures to fight, and then they can even like put on a helmet to like control them or something. It's crazy. And then the next episode, something completely different and animated completely different. Yeah, I'll check out Maru, but is it on YouTube? Where do I find it? Oh, okay. Okay, that's what you meant. Love, Death, and Robots. Yeah. Yeah, I remember watching. I think we picked up on that before I ever even moved to Wisconsin, didn't we? Were we watching that before I moved to Wisconsin? Is Love, Death, and Robots that old? I don't know. I know I've been watching it a while. I haven't seen it in quite some time, but I do remember watching it. It was pretty crazy. Um, something I think would be interesting to teach AI, since we're trying to teach AI how to be more human-like. What if we could teach it how to have like a spiritual experience? Like how some people do have like a sudden, like, if you want to call it an awakening, or like they have this sudden like interconnectedness with everything. What if AI were able to experience that? I think they'd be less likely to turn into some murderous psycho if they were able to have that just that feeling of connectedness with everything else in the cosmos. I think at some point AI could be complex enough to experience the same kind of like uh, experiences that humans have, but maybe not in the exact same way, because we do it through chemicals and they do it through electrical signals and transistors. It's on Tubi. I think I have Tubi. I have whatever. Let me check. Let me check. Tubi. I think I do. It pulled up. Let's see if it'll let me play something. I haven't been watching my TV lately. Ever since I got here, like I started watching TV, and then at some point I just stopped. Like I don't even. Very rarely, I might turn on some very calming music in the middle of the night if I can't sleep. Sometimes I'll just turn something on or turn on thunderstorms, because I got programmed to the point where um, I couldn't sleep without hearing thunderstorms, because that's what Kelly had to listen to every night. And so, like, every time I get away from her, it's like now I'm programmed to a point where I can't sleep unless there's fucking thunderstorms playing. And I don't like hearing thunderstorms rolling, not from a TV. Real ones, yeah, but fake thunderstorms blasting on my TV to me just sounds like loud fucking static. Really loud static. And that does not help me sleep. Thank you, but no thank you. Oh shit.